1580 103.3 WPKY. Good morning. Time is 8:40. We have Mr. Sam Dunning joining us in the studio today, and Sam is a local veteran. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
So we've got Veterans Day coming up. Tell us a little bit about your experiences. First of all, what war were you in?
I'm a Vietnam vet.
A Vietnam veteran, okay.
In the early parts of it, 66 and 67 was when I served over there. Just from the beginning of things, I would just like to say I'm always reluctant to talk very much about what I've done in the service. I think a lot of other veterans might be the same way. To me, you know, I kind of hold back on some of that because I was one of the fortunate ones to come home without a scratch. Of course, no one goes into a situation like that and comes back without being changed, but I come home without a scratch, and there was so many that didn't. And when I start talking about saying, well, what I done over there, and I done this and I done that, there was a lot of them right beside me that was doing the same thing that I was doing, so I don't feel like you're really doing those that didn't come home a justice for me to sit back and say, well, I done this and I done that. That's looking at it from my perspective. I can understand, I guess, non-vets wanting to know what you done when you was over there and wanting to learn and know more about it. I can understand that. And as I've got older, I guess I recognize that a little bit more and maybe a little more free with what I might have to say about things like that when they ask those questions. I might start out just for information, you know, kind of the way a vet thinks. I always tell my Sunday school class, I teach Sunday school every other week. I share with another person, and I always tell them the only thing that I have any authority on to speak on at all is my own personal experiences, and that goes with talking about some of my experiences when I was in the service. You know, I could tell my story. It might be totally different than someone else's that served there, but I'd just like to say to non-vets, people that hasn't ever served their country in a wartime situation, you know, I go to church and I sit down, and very, very seldom do I ever not look at the two flags, the Christian flag and the American flag that sits there in the back. And or any time I see a flag, you know, as a veteran and seeing combat, I own a little piece of that flag. That flag, it's mine. And to no fault to those that haven't done that, but they just cannot have, they just don't own a piece of that flag like I do. They don't own a piece of my country like I do. So I don't mean no harm in that, it's just the way it is, you know. So, you know, when a vet, you see a vet, that, you know, he's a flag flyer, and it does break your heart when you see things go against what you tried for and what you've done for your country. So saying that, you know, and also saying, you know, that someone might not be too free to say things would be the fact that, you know, for respect to those that didn't make it back. I've had 50 years of a good life, and a lot didn't. A little bit about my experiences over there that I guess that I might say that might serve a purpose and stuff today. A lot that maybe a lot of people don't understand and know about the Vietnam War and what went on. I was part of a big buildup. I went over, like I said, I served in 66 and 67. The year 66 there was 300,000 of us that was shipped over there from here that summer, that one summer there. I don't think too many people realize that there was that kind of a buildup in that. I trained, or we trained as a unit, as a company. We trained together here in the States, and then we went over together. That's kind of a unique thing, because later on, even after when I left, any kind of replacements and stuff you got was flown in. I went over on a troop ship, and we was the first ones there. I was stationed at Queenon, but I was all over a great part of Vietnam, in the aspect of what my job was and what I done. I was with a transportation outfit, command, and at Queenon was a bay and a beach. They unloaded supplies and stuff there, and we organized different trucking companies. We'd organize convoys and ship that stuff, haul that stuff, ship that back inland from Queenon to Pleiku and Bong Son and a lot of different places. So I was quite in a lot of different places. Like I said, we was over there in an early time. It was completely changed a lot by the time that I left. But we went in, and there was no, we set up our own stuff, got things started. There was no airport there, that was all built, and that's the chain metal pads for the runways and that stuff, so the C-130s and stuff could come in. But we took the supplies and stuff into like Pleiku and stuff, and built those places up. And the later ones that come in, that was already set up, and they would fly them in. I drove a radio Jeep, and I went with those convoys when they would make one up. I would go with those convoys. You look back on some of those things, and it's kind of interesting the way that I might perceive things and look at things that other people never give a thought to, just simply because of those experiences. I had a brand new Jeep. We had all brand new stuff when we went over there. We unloaded on the beach and set up our compound and stuff. And I drove, that time that I was over there, the 13 months I was over there, I had a brand new Jeep. When I left, I just happened to remember it had a little over 50,000 miles on it, and it was on gravel roads. We went over Anke Pass. That was one of our stickler places. But I remember those places when we first went there, and when we would get to Anke, which was at the top of Anke Pass, they was overhauling helicopter engines in tents. When I left, they had already started building up buildings and doing that stuff. That said, I'd just like to say that in the fact that I served my time over there, and like I say, I'm reluctant to talk about some of this stuff because it's not like I done any great thing, but some things that has changed my life and the way I think about things. We didn't have any refrigeration or anything like that. I went the time that I was over there without fresh eggs, no fresh milk. I would go with these convoys. We would take one, especially like if we went to Pleiku, we'd take that up there, turn around. Maybe they would have one loaded up and ready to bring back, and with stuff that was damaged or whatever, different things. So I ate a lot of K rations. I didn't, it was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so I didn't, ate a lot of K rations, didn't get the mess hall things like a lot of guys did in that effect, and that's always meant something to me. When I come home and I look around here in Princeton, I don't know how many places there is today, but at one time I counted we had 18 eating establishments. I always think about that, you know, just how much we have here that they didn't have there, you know, and that changes, and you would like to be able to explain to people, especially younger people that have never experienced anything like that, you know, just what they have in our great country that we live in. You know, people just poverty, you know. I've witnessed, after we was there a little while, the states would bring in rice to help feed some of the people there, and they'd load it on deuce and a halves, and I've witnessed, you know, they would haul that through when they would load it up out there at the beach, and they'd haul it through the little old town of Queen Anne there. People, you know, the civilians and stuff, the people there would try to drag those rice sacks and stuff off of there, try to cut them and get holes in them, and they would have people on the thing, you know, have to beat them off. They literally beat them off with clubs. So those things just people just don't realize how good they've got it.
Yeah, and I think that we tend to take things for granted in our country. We have an abundance in our country, and I think
sure.
that's
for sure. And it breaks your heart as a veteran. It breaks your heart when you see people kind of trump on that. And then you have to say, well, you know, they don't know. But I also think it's a veteran's responsibility to try to explain that maybe a little better. I think maybe we fall short on that simply by not explaining some of those things sometimes. Like I said, you know, I think a veteran loves their country in a manner that it's hard for a non-veteran to love their country. No fault intended there, you know. It's just the way it is.
Sam, I have just a couple of questions for you. Did you join to go to the war, or were you already in before, or what was your situation?
No, I was drafted.
Okay, and how old were you?
I was, 19?
19. That's very young.
Yeah,
that's very young to be.
You look, you know, at the time, when you're that age, you know, you think you're grown, but you're not. When you look back, yeah, my deal, you know, your whole world's turned upside down. I graduated in 1964, and I got drafted in 1965, right just before, a little bit before Christmas of 65. So, you know, here you are, fresh out of high school. You know, you got your life in front of you. You know, and then you get to put up and pulled in something like that, and you see all those things as a young person and absorb them, you know, and you pretty much come home as a grown up.
Absolutely, I can tell that would grow you up real quick, real quick.
And you don't want anybody to do that. I will say this, and like I say, I have to speak for myself. I can't speak for others, you know. I went through all that and a lot more that I haven't spoke about. I come home, and they was trying to burn down Chicago at that time. They was having all these demonstrations and all this stuff, you know, and of course we didn't get a very good reception at all. I've always said that half of that crowd was just there because it was a crowd, and the other half just didn't know what they was talking about. They was following people that was trying to get them stirred up and get them on something. We was over there, you know, they say it was a lost cause. I'll never admit to that. I'll never go along with that. we was trying to give a people that was trying to have the life that we have. We was trying to give them the freedoms. China and communism was trying to take them over, and they was trying to hold on to a democracy, and we tried to help them, and so it didn't work out, but we tried, and so I never felt like that it was a wasted cause. You have to stand up. You have to stand up. You have to understand that what we have here is going to be under fire constantly, because there's going to be those that want to take it away, and I think that's something I would like to say, that when you see a veteran, a veteran, thank them for their service. I don't think a lot of times they hardly know how to handle that. You don't feel like, you just feel like you done what you were supposed to do. You didn't do anything great. I'm not, what I done, not great, or what any of us done. We just done what we was supposed to do for our country to try to take care of it. But thank them. They probably won't show it, but it kind of embarrass them. But do thank them. And especially today, things was so much different when we was there than it is now. I mentioned this. I think I was talking about this in our Sunday school class here the other day, that when I was over there, we would write a letter, and the best I can remember, it was about 10 days before you would get that stateside, and it was airmailed. News media. When anything was filmed over there for the news, for the news and stuff here, it was 3 days before stateside got it. Whatever went on over there that might happen to be filmed, Walter Cronkite and some of those, when they would film something, by the time it was canned and shipped out, it was 3 days before the news media could get that. Today, it's just instant, and people in the service, they can pick up a cell phone now and talk across the world, and it wasn't, we was kind of stuck there in our own little world.
Sam, we want to thank you for being with us this morning. Our time has run out. Yeah. I'm sorry, it just kind of flew by, didn't it? I'm sure there's a lot more you could talk about if we had the time.
Probably so.
Yeah. Remember, Veterans Day is this Sunday, September. We are not in September. We are in November. November the 11th. Sam Dunning, is there anything else you'd like to say before we close out?
No, not really. I just, remember the veterans, remember this great country that we live in, and take care of her.
Okay. And from WPKY, we want to thank you for being a veteran,
well, thank you
and
very
all
much.
of our veterans out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yep.